Hey guys, my name is Mitsumiao, and welcome to your episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming-related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the formalities out of the way real quick, if you'd like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below, or by sending me a Facebook or Twitter message. The first question really comes from Kenzie, and it is, do you think that Mira needs a nerf considering her ban rates, or is she where she needs to be? That is a really good question. I was very surprised when we initially learned that she is sidelined on PC for Platinum and Diamond players 76% of the time. That is incredibly high. Any other operator in the game, if they had that high of a ban rate, I would automatically assume that either they're not simply fun to go against, like Jackal or Echo, or that they're blatantly overpowered and that something needs to be done to their kit to put them in line with all of the other operators in the game. For example, this last season, Jackal was sidelined 73% of the time. Ubisoft realized that this was a problem. Many players don't like going against him, and then he's a little bit too powerful, and so with this next update, he's seen some significant nerfs. He is getting some quality of life improvements, but pretty much across the board, he is going to be nowhere near as efficient as he was before. And so if someone like Jackal, who was sidelined 73% of the time, what does that mean for someone like Mira, who even has a higher ban rate? All that being said, though, I don't really know if I'm sold on the idea of her seeing any significant changes. For the longest time now, people have argued that she is one of the best operators that has ever been introduced into Rainbow Six Siege, and that Ubisoft should strive to add more characters like her. Her gadget is simplistic and not overly complicated, but at the same time also changes the way that you approach the objectives significantly in a meaningful way for both offense and defense. On top of that, she has a fair amount of counters in the form of other operators, and even if you don't have a hard counter directly, as long as you know what you're doing, you can still counter her with the right strategy. And so from my viewpoint, while she is very powerful, I don't feel like she is actually an operator that does need to see any significant nerfs. And honestly, I don't really know how they would be able to nerf her. It's not because of her weapon, it really just comes down to her gadget. Maybe they could start to introduce some more operators on offense that are a direct counter. That could be a way that they could reduce that pick rate and make her less effective. That's a distinct possibility, but I'm not entirely sure what they could do to her kit specifically to make her less appealing. Even when we take a look at her win rate and pick rate on PC this last season, it's right where it should be, right there in the middle. And so according to that, she is perfectly balanced, one of the best balanced operators in the game. And so honestly, I'm not really sure what these stats mean in the grand scheme of things. Maybe it's just simply because on a lot of objectives, she is just incredibly powerful. There are some maps where people just simply do not want to go against her. It's not really the fact that she is overpowered, it's just simply maybe that teams just don't want to go against an operator like this in a majority of their competitive matches. It's hard to say. And so let me know what you guys think on this topic. Do you think that Mira is well balanced? Do you think that Ubisoft needs to step on in and change her kit in a significant way? Or do you think that eventually things will work itself out when they introduce more operators and more options for the defensive team? Give me your guys' thoughts down below. The next question comes from Ryan, and it is, to give more variety to choosing a secondary gadget, what about operators having access to certain perks like an extra drone, extra reinforcement, or an extra mag? So I'm assuming what you mean by this is that instead of bringing flashes on offense or deployable shield, that you would forego that and you would have access to then an extra drone or another reinforcements. And while I will agree that this would definitely increase the amount of variety, it would give options for both offense and defense to approach things slightly differently, and you would have more control and really just more ways to play the game. The reason why I'm a bit skeptical about this, though, is I feel like this would have some unintended consequences, and honestly, it might be a little bit too powerful for either team. There are some objectives that were specifically designed with only having a set amount of reinforcements, and so if all of a sudden the team is able to reinforce one extra wall or two of them, that's now all of a sudden going to be much more challenging for offense to get anywhere near said objective room. And while I understand that you are giving something up for this, it's not free, you're not going to have access to a deployable deployable shield or barbed wire, which could make a difference, you kind of get where I'm coming from. These maps were designed specifically with only having 10 reinforcements, and so that might have some unintended consequences. On top of that, I feel like having 3 drones on offense would be incredibly powerful. I don't know about you guys, but I honestly think that the drone is one of the most powerful tools in Rainbow Six Siege. Being able to drone out a room and then proceed on in with that information is incredibly valuable. And so if all of a sudden you had access to a 3rd one, or everyone on your team brought 5 of them, now you have 5 drones around the map, that just seems really potent. And while I understand not everyone would do this, like you're still gonna wanna bring nades, you're gonna wanna have breaching charges and stuff like that, but there's some operators in this game where, if we're being completely honest, their secondary doesn't get used all that often. And so if all of a sudden you had the option on some maps to just simply forego that secondary gadget and just have an extra drone, I think most people would do that because that would be a significant upgrade. And so all in all, it's for those very reasons why I'm not entirely sold on this concept. The fact that the game was designed from the ground up around having a certain amount of reinforcements and drones, as soon as you add in something like this, that kind of throws everything out the window, and I don't really know how that would impact the balance in the long term. But really, we wouldn't know unless they added something like this into the game. The next question is, what are your thoughts on the reveal of Season 1 of Modern Warfare? I gotta admit that I'm pretty impressed by what I've seen so far for the next season. If you're not aware, they're gonna be introducing 3 old classic maps. You've got Crash, Vacant, and Shipment. I'm not entirely sure how Shipment is gonna play out. I know that it was a fan favorite, but it was all chaos back then, so that should be really interesting. They're gonna be introducing a new large ground war map called Port, and then they're gonna be having apparently more than 3 2v2 maps. If all that wasn't enough though, there's going to be new modes that they're gonna be introducing, and 2 brand new weapons. And so from a content standpoint, this is really dense, and this is exactly, I think, what people were hoping for. Now, we don't know for certain if all of this content is going to drop day 1 on December 3rd, what they might do, because at the very bottom it states that season content and launch dates are subject to change. This might indicate that we'll get like 1 or 2 maps at the beginning, and then a couple weeks or a month later, they'll start to add more of these maps. It's hard to say. But even if that is the case, I'm okay with that. If this is the first season they plan on doing, I'm assuming 3 or 4 this next year, because that's how seasons work, and they produce this much content every single time, while we don't have any indication that that is the case, I can only guess that this game is gonna have some longevity. The fact that all of these maps are gonna be free, all of the weapons and all this content is gonna be available for everyone without having to spend any money, like that's pretty awesome. Now, I'm assuming they are going to start to monetize this game with microtransactions. They have indicated that really the only way that they're going to be monetizing the game is with a battle pass and some cosmetic items here and there. If they stick with that, I think that they're on to something here. And so we have absolutely no idea what the later seasons are going to look like. Maybe they're front loading all of their content to give the appearance that they're going to be supporting this game long term, but they have no plans of doing so. The fact that they're introducing especially fan favorite maps back in the day, a lot of people have been complaining about map balance and map design. These are fan favorites for a reason, so hopefully they translate well. If they can continue to do this and bring significant free content and not do anything weird with the monetization, I have high hopes, but we are gonna have to wait and see. The next one comes from Brady, and it is, do you think that Tower should get a rework? I feel like the map has potential to be in ranked with a few changes. I mean, I would like Tower to get reworked because I think it is one of the worst maps that they've ever introduced, but at the same time, I think that it is fundamentally flawed, and there wouldn't really be an easy way for them to actually rework it without just making a brand new map from the ground up. Tower is a roamer's paradise when we really get down to it. Not only because it's massive and there's plenty of cubbies and rooms that a defender can hide in, but also because 99% of the match takes place inside of the building. Unlike every other map where the outside is the home base for offense so they can establish a foothold, that's just not simply the case. And so the result result of this is that it's just super difficult and frustrating for offense to make their way to where they want to go without getting flanked from a roamer. And so honestly, I'm not entirely sure what Ubisoft could do to balance out this map in a meaningful way without fundamentally changing the core design. Maybe they could shrink it significantly so that there just simply isn't as many flanking routes or rooms that defense could be in, but other than that, I'm kind of out of a loss. But yeah, guys, that is what it for today's episode of Sunday Mailbox. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you thought about what we discussed in today's video. Are you excited for the upcoming season? How do you think Ubisoft could balance out Tower? Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. As always, if you'd like to submit your own question for an upcoming episode, you can also leave a comment or by sending me a Facebook or Twitter message. But until next time, guys, have a good one and take it easy.